You kids, what are you doing here? Don't lie to me!
We're just eating popsicles.
The sun blazed down on Elmwood Drive that scorching Tuesday afternoon in July, turning the quiet suburban street in our Midwestern town into a shimmering mirage. This was classic American suburbia, neatly trimmed lawns stretching out like green carpets, white picket fences guarding modest two-story homes, and the distant chime of an ice cream truck echoing from a few blocks over. Kids rode bikes in lazy circles, sprinklers hissed rhythmically, and the air carried the faint scent of barbecue grills firing up early. For my 10-year-old son, Jack, and his two best friends, Mike and Tyler, it was paradise. They ruled this kingdom of summer with the unbridled joy only kids can muster, their laughter cutting through the humid air like a refreshing breeze. Jack, with his infectious grin and boundless energy, wore his favorite bright blue shirt, already smudged with dirt from a morning spent building forts in the backyard. Mike, the thoughtful one with a knack for facts, and Tyler, the quiet observer who always had a clever joke up his sleeve, completed the trio. They were inseparable that summer, a band of brothers exploring every inch of our neighborhood. Today, they lounged in our driveway, cherry-red popsicles in hand, the sticky juice dripping onto the concrete and forming colorful puddles. The debate raged on. The last bites the bistits like super-concentrated flavor, Jack argued, waving his treat like a sword. Mike shook his head. Nah, it's gross, all woody and brain freeze. Why? Tyler just giggled, letting his grape popsicle melt as he watched his friend spar. It was pure, unfiltered childhood bliss, the kind that makes you nostalgic even as it's happening. But bliss can shatter in an instant, and that's exactly what happened when she appeared. Evelyn Harper, the widow from across the street, emerged from her immaculate ranch-style house like a thundercloud rolling in. She was in her late 60s, clad in a faded purple tracksuit that seemed ill-suited for the heat, her silver hair lacquered into a rigid helmet. Oversized sunglasses hid her eyes, but her posture screamed judgment. She'd lived there for decades, longer than most of us, and since her husband Henry's passing, she'd become a fixture of neighborhood whispers, reclusive, suspicious, always peeking through her curtains. She marched across the street with stiff, purposeful strides, her sneakers slapping the asphalt. The boys' laughter faltered, then stopped. Jack paused mid-gesture, his popsicle hovering inches from his mouth, a puzzled look crossing his face. Mike glanced at his friends nervously, and Tyler instinctively scooted closer to Jack. From my spot at the living room window, where I sipped iced tea and flipped through a magazine, I watched with mild curiosity. Maybe she was complaining about the chalk drawings again, a hopscotch grid they'd sketched that morning, which had innocently encroached on the sidewalk. Neighborly gripes were common here, but this felt different. She halted at the edge of our property, jabbing a bony finger like an accusation. You boys, what on earth are you doing here? Her voice was thin and sharp, laced with an edge that set my teeth on edge. It wasn't a question, it was a demand. Mike, ever the literal kid, answered hesitantly. We're just eating popsicles, ma'am. His voice squeaked a bit at the end, betraying his unease. Tyler said nothing, his eyes wide as saucers, while Jack tilted his head, trying to process the hostility. Don't you dare lie to me, Evelyn hissed, taking another step forward, invading the invisible boundary. I've been watching you all afternoon skulking around, casing the houses. I know exactly what your kind gets up to. The phrase, your kind, landed like a punch to the gut, heavy with implication. It wasn't about their age or their games. It was about the color of their skin, the thing that made them stand out in this mostly white neighborhood. The boys froze, exchanging confused glances. Their dark complexions, which I'd always seen as a beautiful part of who they are, were suddenly reframed in her eyes as evidence of wrongdoing. A cold dread snaked up my spine. I set my glass down with a clink, my heart pounding. This wasn't a minor annoyance. This was escalating fast. Evelyn was already fumbling in her pocket for her phone, her thumb flying over the screen. I'm calling the authorities, she declared, her voice rising for dramatic effect. You think you can just loiter and steal without consequences? The boys looked terrified now. Jack's popsicle slipped from his fingers, splattering red on the driveway. Dad? He called out softly, his eyes darting toward the house, pleading for intervention. I was at the door in seconds, but I hesitated. Bursting out too aggressively might play into her narrative. Still, I couldn't stand by. As I stepped outside, the heat hit me like a wall, but it was nothing compared to the fire building in my chest. Evelyn, what's going on? These are just kids playing in their own driveway. My voice was steady, but inside, I was raging. She ignored me, speaking into the phone with exaggerated panic. Yes, 911. There's a group of suspicious boys across from my house. They've been lurking, and now my garden gnome is missing. Reginald. It's priceless, a gift from my late husband. I feel threatened. They're staring at me. Please send someone quick. She hung up, crossing her arms triumphantly, as if she'd just won a battle. The absurdity of Ida Garden Gnome clashed with the gravity. Reginald? It sounded like a cartoon character, but to her, it was ammunition. The boys huddled together, popsicles abandoned and melting into sad rivulets. Tyler wiped at his eyes. Mike whispered something to Jack, who just stared at the ground, his lower lip trembling. Minutes stretched like hours until the sirens pierced the air, growing louder and more ominous. A police cruiser pulled up with deliberate slowness, angling across our driveway like a blockade. A second followed, lights off but presence overwhelming. 2 cars for 3 10-year-olds? The disproportionality screamed bias, and my stomach churned. Officer Reynolds emerged first, tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden behind reflective sunglasses that mirrored Evelyn's own. His hand rested casually on his holster as he approached her. "Ma'am, you the caller?" She launched into her story with renewed vigor, gesturing wildly. "They've been creeping by my hedge all day. Reginald's gone vanished. It's worth hundreds, sentimental value beyond that. Henry, my husband, God rest his soul, brought it from Europe. These boys were the only ones around." Reynolds nodded, then turned to his partner, Officer Hayes, a younger man with a buzz cut and a nervous tick in his jaw. Hayes approached the boys slowly. "All right, fellas, let's chat. Hear about a missing gnome." Jack, my brave little guy, found his voice. "We didn't take anything, sir. We were just sitting here." His politeness was a shield. I'd taught him respect authority, stay calm. But Hayes pressed on. "You 3 pop up right when it's gone. Coincidence? Empty your pockets. Let's see." The search was humiliating. Jack turned out his shorts, a crumpled $5 bill from mowing lawns, a shiny pebble he'd found. Mike had a Lego brick, Tyler, a tissue. Hayes examined each item with feigned seriousness, as if expecting a miniature gnome to tumble out. Reynolds kept me at bay. "Sir, step back. We're investigating a theft." "Theft? Of a lawn ornament? In broad daylight, with no evidence." I protested, my voice rising despite my efforts. "This is based on her word alone, and it's prejudiced nonsense." Reynolds recited the line. "Procedure requires follow-up. Complainant alleges property crime." Evelyn nodded smugly, adding details about Reginald's custom paint job and lantern hand. The officers took notes, demanding the boys' full names, ages, even Jack's birthday for the report. "It's standard," Reynolds said flatly. As they drove off, advising the boys to play in the back for a while, stay out of trouble, Evelyn retreated with a venomous glance. I knelt by Jack, pulling him close. He wouldn't meet my eyes, staring at the stained concrete. "Dad, did I do something bad?" The question gutted me. "No, son, you didn't. But the world just taught you it might not matter." That night, the house felt heavier. Jack went to his room silently, door clicking shut like a finality. I paced, fury boiling, wanting to storm her door, demand answers, but knowing it'd label me the angry black man. Instead, I called Mike and Tyler's parents. We vented in hushed tones. The report was a digital footprint. Thomas, Mike's dad, said, a paralegal contact confirming it could linger in databases, popping up in future checks. Jack's nightmares started that night. I rushed to his cries. "I didn't steal it. Please." Thrashing in sheets, sweat-soaked. I held him, whispering reassurances, but the damage was etched. Morning brought a hollow-eyed boy. "Dad, why did she say that? Is it 'cause we're different?" The talk came prejudice, unfair systems, hearts poisoned by fear. Words felt inadequate against his disillusioned gaze. The neighborhood shifted palpably. Mrs. Thompson, usually chatty, ducked behind blinds. Mr. Jenkins crossed the street to avoid waving. Evelyn's neighborhood watch sign staked her lawn like a flag of hostility. If you see something, say something. It screamed surveillance, targeting us. Helplessness gnawed, but resolve grew. I cornered Mrs. Thompson helping with her garden. Evelyn's curdled since Henry died, she confided. Heart attack in his roses 6 months back. Reginald was his last folly, a quirky German import. Grief twisted her, paranoia about everyone. To her, your boys. Well, they're other. Easy targets. Pity flickered, but anger won. I wouldn't let her sorrow scar Jack. Mr. Ramirez, the new family on the corner with all the gadgets, had cameras. Heard about the cops outrageous, he said, pulling up feeds. We watched. Boys emerging post-genome disappearance. Evelyn's rant, police theatrics. Rewind, a fox. Sleek red fur, sniffing, nudging, dragging Reginald by the hat into bushes at 2:51 p.m. 10 minutes before the kids. Incredulous, we laughed bitterly. Video copied. I plunged into the Lothorn's ripping sleeves, mud-caking shoes. Under oak leaves, cracked Reginald, hat chipped, hand snapped. Heavy in my arms, a symbol of absurdity. Evelyn saw me emerge, teacup crashing. But I strategized, police first. Reynolds reviewed, called back strained, conclusive. Report amended, records expunged. Department apologizes. Charges for false report loomed. Vengeance tempted, but complexity halted me. Let me confront her. Late afternoon, gnome in arms, I waited in the driveway. She crossed, frail, eyes on the relic. A fox, I said flatly. Video proves innocence. Tears flowed real once. Henry. I didn't yield. Jack nightmares, fears his skin. You inflicted that. Place the gnome down. Police may charge. Choose kindness or ruin. Next day, she knocked, shoebox proffered. Antique compass inside. Note. For Jack, find your path. Counseling pledged, police confessed to. Gathering followed. Awkward, but cookies, lemonade thawed ice. Garden tour, new gnomes gifted. Jack, mine stays here too, keep you company. Neighbors joined, apologies flowing. No charges, healing swayed. Records vanished. Neighborhood bloomed. Signs down, shared pies, waves. Summer waned, boys play porch-bound, watchful. Jack wiser, compass bedside. Innocence dimmed, but resilience shone. Truth triumphed, forgiveness empowered. What do you think about the violence and injustice woven into everyday life like this? Share your thoughts in the comments, take a stand, express your view. Have you faced something similar? Let's discuss.